Welcome to another episode of the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. I'm your brother, O God, from Hip Hop News Uncensored, and sitting across from me is my co-host.
What up? What up, y'all? It's your man Sam, and CEO of Viral Hip Hop News, and you're in the building for a very special edition of the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. We got a special guest in the building. We got producer and podcast host of Holden Court Podcast. We got the good bro Big Court on the podcast. How you doing today, family?
Man, I'm good. I'm blessed, man. How you brothers doing?
Doing great, man. Thank you.
Indeed. Good to have you on the podcast this afternoon, man. Been watching you for a long time, man, and it's an honor to have you on. How you feeling this afternoon, bro? How's everything in your world and what you got going on where you at, brother?
Man, you know what? I'm blessed. I can't complain. You know what I'm saying? Right now, I'm down here in Atlanta, making my rounds, doing my little media tour or whatnot, putting the work in on the grind and, got some other business ventures down here. So, man, I stay on the go.
How lit is Atlanta? We always hear about Atlanta. We're in Jersey right now, and that's like Black Hollywood. Everybody's in Atlanta, and that's why y'all mixing it up and doing your thing. How is it out there in Atlanta business-wise for you?
You know what? I'll be honest with you, brother. I almost moved out here last year. I've been living in LA. Well, I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, but I've been living in LA 20 years. I almost moved out here last year. I used to do a lot of business down here. I had real estate down here. It's cool. It's an acquired taste. You know what I'm saying? I think I'm just a big city boy at this point. You know what I'm saying? Atlanta is still the South. You feel me? So for me, it's cool to visit, but it's not somewhere I like to live. You know what I mean? The cost of living is cool compared to LA. You know what I mean? You get a lot more for your money down here, but it's cool. Shout out to ATL, but I don't think it'd be somewhere I want to live though.
Gotcha. That's the first person I really heard talk about ATL like that. Everybody else swears by it. You know what I'm saying? But
I mean, you got to think. I've been in LA 20 years, so I kind of got a different. But then it's what you like. It's what your vibe, your flow. Right. You know what I'm saying? What you want to adjust and get acclimated to. So I think I'm just more of a LA dude at this point.
Yeah. Speaking about Kansas City, man, I remember I knew this one lady from Kansas City, Missouri. That's the only person I ever knew from Kansas City. But it's definitely a rough place. I think it's like the home of barbecue and shit like that. But talk about Kansas City, man. Growing up in Kansas City.
Yeah, man. I'm born and raised Kansas City, Missouri. Shout out to the KCK side. I grew up an only child, brother. I was raised on love and not survival. You know what I'm saying? I come from a beautiful household. I was raised by strong, educated women. Like I said, I'm an only child. I grew up in the hood, but you know what I'm saying? My house on the inside, man, it was love. Education was a focal point. But you know how it is, at some point, the city becomes, the neighborhood becomes hostile with the influx of gangs and crack cocaine in the 80s or whatnot. So, even though it's love in the house, you have to go outside. You know what I mean? So you're smacked in the face with the element. So it was cool though, man. Kansas City is, like you said, home of the barbecue. A lot of culture, a lot of jazz music culture. Shout out to Gates Barbecue. Arthur Bryant's, we got a whole, we known for the barbecue over there.
Yeah, definitely.
So talk about your path, man. What got you into molding you into who you are? You look like you played DN for the Missouri. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So talk about your path, man. Were you into sports? Were you into broadcasting and production early on? Like, how did you get to where you were?
Nah, brother. The funny thing is growing up as a kid, I was an artist. I could draw really well. I always thrived in like written expression. Like I would write my mother poetry. I always did well in English and literature. My grandmother used to make me read the dictionary and the encyclopedia. I know I'm showing my age saying encyclopedia.
Remember them days?
Hell yeah, sure do.
A lot of the youngsters like, what the hell is that? You know what I mean? But so I always used to write stories, and so I always was a creative. I was very active in sports. The funny thing is even in the hood, I wanted to, I played basketball. That was one of my dreams, and I excelled at basketball. But I used to want to be a professional BMXer, man. Back in the 80s as a kid, I was tough on them bikes, doing tricks and different things like that. So my initial dream was to become a professional BMX and get sponsored by Mongoose or GT or some shit like that.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Right.
Yeah. And so, I grew up in a musical household. So, growing up with Confunction, Cameo, all the big bands of the 70s and the 80s, I was raised around music. So I would kind of DJ on the weekend. My mother and my stepfather and some of my other family, I don't know how old you guys are, but back in the 80s and the 70s, they be getting lit on the weekend, playing their records or whatnot.
Mhm.
And inevitably a fight would break out damn near every weekend. That's just 80s shit, right? And so I always had an affinity for music. I was always kind of somewhat musically inclined in terms of hearing chords and understanding rhythm, understanding cadence, understanding different elements of music. So I think as I got older and of course got introduced to rap and gangster rap, which really piqued my interest, it was probably just a natural transition for me to get into some type of written expression. But as I tell people all the time, man, everything that I've succeeded in and everything that I've done thus far, I'm not formally trained in anything. You know what I mean? I graduated high school. I didn't go to college. Even being able to, build a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, I never went to real estate school or business school or realtor school or nothing like that. Just basically showing up and, just using a little bit of common sense and motivation.
Right. So talk about, the real estate. Talk about your first time, like getting your feet wet in that game, because much of us, aspire to do so, but everybody's kind of we don't know like a lot of the red tape. So talk about like your first time getting into real estate, and tell us about that experience.
You know what? It was funny me getting into real estate. I had some hustle money. I used to do my thing. I was in the music business and I was in the streets doing my thing. I would see a lot of the OGs in my neighborhood. They were buying houses. I had no concept of real estate. I didn't know. I bought my first house for $17,000, and I put another. I was maybe 18, 19 years old. I put another maybe 10, 15 into it. I rented it out for like $600 a month. And I remember standing in front of this house feeling somewhat accomplished, right? But I was like, damn, okay, 600 a month, it's gonna take me 6, 7, 8 years to get my money back, And so, excuse me, so it dawned on me because back in the day when I hustled, I understood volume. So I was like, oh damn, okay, ding, ding, ding. I was like, if I get 10 of these, then it would make more sense in terms of cash flow. So now we're looking at 5,000, 6,000 a month. And, from that space of being 17, 18, 19 years old, that was pretty cool money to aspire to make just passively every month. So, so I bought my first house. So by the time I got up to about 11 or 12 houses I had free and clear, I ended up meeting this lady that equity meant.
Wow.
I really got these houses in case I ever went to jail. That was my mentality. I bought these houses in case I went to jail. I have something to help get me out or borrow against to help with defense.
Smart. Yeah.
That was my initial motivation. And so, man, she schooled me. She taught me about, leveraging. She taught me about equity. I didn't even know those terms. So I say probably within 5 or 6 months, she got me a $500,000 line of credit over those houses. Wow. And I had access to those funds. And so that opened up my mind, that opened up my brain to start to try to educate myself to, different ways of doing things in real estate and banking and understanding credit. So, I kind of got that game, not necessarily an early age, because, others, they teach their kids early on about credit and different things like that. But that's kind of how I got into real estate, just simply buying some properties in case I went to jail.
Now, still a young boy doing that.
I was about 22, 23 by the time I hit that point. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then having a mindset that you had, that's crazy. But then also growing up, now hip hop's coming around. You know what I mean? And then at first we were introduced and it was the breakdancing and
Yeah.
Just that form of art. And then we started getting to the conscious rap. And then, like you said, what you gravitated to was the gangster rap, which is obviously, if I'm not mistaken, kind of started out in LA with NWA. What did you get introduced to? Yeah.
Well, for me, the first gangster rap record that I heard was Ice-T, Squeeze the Trigger.
Okay.
And that was I believe that was on Rhyme Pays 1986, 1987. Before that, to be very honest with you, I mean, outside of R&B, you know, we didn't have a lot of choices back then. So you didn't have, you know, of course you had MTV, but MTV didn't play a lot of black music. So I grew up not only with R&B, but I grew up on Duran Duran, George Michael, you know what I'm saying? You know, different white acts at the time. So because that's all we had, and Foreigner and all the shit that came on the radio. But when I heard, I mean, I had heard, you know, of course, Sugar Hill, and Run DMC, you know, but when I heard Ice-T, Squeeze the Trigger, that was when I was like, oh shit, what is this? You know what I mean? It really piqued my interest at that point.
All right. Now, a lot of people know you as being Master P's right hand man, right?
Yeah.
Talk about, you know, were you picked up by No Limit at some point in your career?
Yes. Okay. You know, starting out in Kansas City, bro, you know, I started out as an artist. I was a part of a group called CCG, me and my partner Cisco, and we were a duo. And you know, it wasn't no industry in Kansas City. You got to understand, this was way before social media, obviously. And this was back in the day, listen to my demo. You had to get put on. You actually had to get a record deal. You know what I mean? And it was right around the time of the emergence of independence. You know, that wasn't as popular as it became, you know, over the year as time went on. But so we end up, I used to send tapes to all the record labels, to Jive and Zamba and Priority and Arista, all of that. And they would send all that shit back, you know, and it would have the stamp on it. We don't accept unsolicited material. So I was like, now mind you, I'm like 17 at the time. So I'm like, well, shit. I was like, I got to figure out somehow a way to get, you know, it's no industry in Kansas City. So what I end up doing, I didn't have the terms or the verbiage of independent. I didn't know what that, you know, I didn't know that. I just knew that, you know, Ruthless Records, you know, Dog Day Records, Black Market, No Limit, they just seemed smaller and they seemed more attainable. Like they, you know, like I could touch someone and talk to someone there. So I ended up sending tapes to all of those little record labels, and I filled up P's voicemail. You know, this was 1995. So I filled up his voicemail so nobody else could leave no voicemails. And so finally I got on his nerves, I guess. So he figured as dedicated as I was, I must have been serious, you know. So he ended up going to get my tape, listen to it, and that's where the No Limit thing started. He flew us out to, because at this point No Limit was still in Northern California. So he flew us out to Oakland, put us on Down South Hustlers. A lot of people that remember Down South Hustlers, which was the double CD, it was actually the first double CD. He was the first one to do that, even before Tupac, All Eyes on Me. We got a gold record out of that. So a lot of people didn't realize that I was Court Dog. I was part of the group CCG. 20-some years later, they still putting that together. So that was our introduction to No Limit.
Now talk about how it was in the industry at that time, because a lot of people were going through what they were going through in the industry, but Master P being one of those individuals on the other side, kind of taking over the game and doing something that was status quo to the industry at that time. Talk about some of the game you got and how your eyes through the industry are different than other people's.
I think it was a thing of just, you know, No Limit was always built and based on independence and ownership. You know what I'm saying? And you know, P wasn't the type to be wanting to go beg for nothing, and he didn't want to be controlled, you know. And I think thinking outside the box, you know, he even had to fight wars in Priority to be able to release 17, 18 albums a year, because the game was so used to, you know, doing things the old way, so to speak. You know, they would, like an artist would only release one album every year and a half, you know. But P was like, you know, I'm a record label. I should be able to release as many albums as I want, just like y'all do. Y'all might release one album from Ice Cube, one album from this act, but collectively as a label, y'all got, 20, 30 albums out, whether it be rock, R&B, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he took that same model and it just so happened it was all rappers, And so I think he broke the mold with the type of consistency and the type of marketing he was doing as well.
Yeah.
I think just with the album covers, the graphics, the getting the double pages in the source, the 4 pages in the source, bus benches, I think he thought outside the box. So that's really what I learned from that whole experience is discipline, consistency, and thinking outside the box, and a lot of people didn't see P coming either. A lot of people used to shun him and talk shit because, he had a country accent. He just outworked them. I remember some of the acts that came to respect him to this day. I can remember them acting a certain kind of way and feeling some type of way, just really not respecting the movement, because they thought that he was, just country, but, he outworked them.
Right. And speaking about the outworking, were you around too when P was going around, Master P? He was up in like New York, different areas, putting up posters and everything because he had to do that independent hustle. Was no major label to do that for him. Were you around then to get to see that aspect of him too, like straight out of the trunk with it?
Yeah, for sure. Especially because, like I said, you had to figure I started with No Limit right before the cusp of the explosion. You know what I'm saying? Right, so he was still, it was still the bus benches and the posters and the street teams and all of that, really grassrooting it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, and it's the same grind that he still applies to this day, and that myself still applies. Doing the work, man, getting up every day and going hard. That's what we try to teach this next generation, man. Like, you can't be entitled. Like, you have to put in the work. That's, if you treat the hustle, you treat whatever you're trying to build part-time, it's going to treat you part-time. That's just how it goes.
Indeed. Now, when No Limit was at its peak, everybody on that joint was winning. I feel like everybody had a #1 record. Whoever came out, No Limit had a #1 record. It was up way on the East Coast. Anything that it was on MTV Jams, it was on BET Countdown, everything was going crazy. But then obviously you got personalities and things happen and things begin to fall. What happened during the time when things kind of started going? I don't want to say left because I don't really know what happened, but people started going their separate ways. What happened around that
time? Well, every dynasty, every artists, it's the music business, man. You get a run, you know what I'm saying? Not everybody, but if you're blessed enough, you get a run. And there's a few that were able to, reinvent themselves and kind of, rebuild or whatnot. But I think it's just that, people grow, P had, he was growing as a mogul, as a business person. So, I think that he had affections and aspirations to do other things. Obviously, other people, Beats by the Pound, they wanted to do some different stuff. So I think it was just probably just a perfect storm. You know what I mean? Just with people just moving in different directions. You know what I mean? I think that and P was playing basketball at that time as well. You know what I mean? So he had basketball aspirations. So I think it was just people growing and evolving. I don't think it was necessarily due to one particular, reason, maybe a culmination of things,
Gotcha.
Right. Definitely. Now talk about you're coming out with a new book, right?
Yep.
To talk about that, and your whole process behind coming out with a book.
Yeah. So, because my history, I was slow to social media. You know what I'm saying? I only been on social media like maybe, let me get this right. I only been on social media like 5 years. You know what I'm saying? So there was a gap of 10, 15 years that nobody had heard from me. Now, I was still producing TV shows, producing movies. I was still doing all the stuff I was doing with P. I just wasn't showcasing it, So I moved to LA 20 years ago. So it's kind of I'm just filling in the gaps for people. Some people remember me as Court Dog. Then, of course, once I emerged on social media, I was Big Court. So, and I also wanted to just document my journey to inspire people, especially the younger generation. I've had some exhilarating highs and some devastating lows, and just want to share, that hope and that thing of overcoming, you know what I'm saying, with someone. Because I always say, man, money comes and goes. We can have all the money in the world that we want, but people don't remember how much money you had or what kind of car you had. They remember how you made them feel. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to be able to document. I got a hell of a story. I mean, coming from the hood in Kansas City, I had my first child at 16. I was in jail at 15, coming up through the streets, coming up through the music, game, and, doing my independent thing, of course, being with No Limit and being with one of the biggest music moguls of our generation, and then transitioning into other arenas of business, so all of that, and all of that, I was successful because of all the failures, you know what I mean? So I lost a lot. I bumped my head a lot. So I want to be able to share those experiences, and hopefully, somebody can find, something helpful out of that, and they can learn from it and not go through the same thing and cut the time down for them to be successful.
No, at 15, weren't you facing like juvenile life or something like that?
Hell yeah.
How was that at 15, thinking you was going to go away for a long time?
Oh man, that was such a, every now and again, bro, I think about that time of my life and I get goosebumps, because there were so many instances where I couldn't have been here, it was really a slippery slope at that time in my life. I was going through shit at home, I was I was being a follower, and when I say follower, not of an individual, but following the destructive culture, you know what I'm saying? And feeding into the gangster bullshit and all of that. And yeah, man, at the same, like, think about that. At the same time that I'm sitting here in jail and they talk about giving me juvenile life, then sending me to the penitentiary. My girlfriend is pregnant and I'm 15 years old. You know what I'm saying? My mama, she's going through what she's going through, man, I had shit going on in the streets. I'm still trying to find myself. I don't know if I want to be a gangbanger, a dope dealer, a doctor, a rapper, like I'm trying to figure my way out. So, I can just remember so many different instances of near-death experiences, just precarious positions, walking the street late at night. I can remember times sleeping in the park, that was, I'm not going to say it was a dark time of my life, but just a very confusing time, trying to find my way. But, God smiled on me, bro. And I end up kind of making it out of that situation with a little less than a little more than a slap on the hand. And so that kind of got my mind right to let me know, hey, you know what I'm saying? All that gangster bullshit ain't what it's cracked up to be, and not to say that I was an angel, moving forward. I probably still flirted, with the underworld to an but I just moved differently. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't reckless and crashing out like I was when I was younger. So, I like to give youngsters that message and let them know that, man, listen, it's okay to evolve. It's okay to change. Growing up and growing old and having kids and being successful and being healthy is cool. You know what I mean? It's not cool to die at 8, 18, 19, 20 years old or get, 30, 40 year sentences for something that you did as a child. You know what I mean? Pretty much. And you got to pay for that for the rest of your life. So,
To extend on that, we often talk here on the show about a lot of these rappers who grow up right in front of us, who get this abundance amount of money and never knew what to ever do with it. No one ever told them what to do with it. And we're watching them grow up right in front of our eyes. And although it's kind of tough to put them in a child situation because they're out here making grown men decisions and making mistakes like grown men, we often have to put ourselves in that shoe. Like, damn, what were we doing at 21, 22? And how are we looking at 38 and 36? Talk about hip hop now and what you think as an OG about some of these young rappers who are very impressionable to the youth, but acting out on social media like crazy. Like you said, you got into social media a little later in the game. So I'd love to know your perspective on how you looking at hip hop, the young hip hop artists going back and forth on social media, the things that you see. Like, what do you think about it right now?
That's a twofold question. I think that, well, for one, for starters, I enjoy the music. I can honestly say, I'm not one of these older cats that hate on the music and talk about how it was in our day or whatever. I love the music. A lot of these little niggas, I really be rocking to their shit. But what I don't understand I think is a little different than it was in our generation is the fact that, you know, many of them are blessed with these opportunities. You know, you have the opportunity to change your circumstance, change your life, change the people's lives around you. And it seems like they lean more into the bullshit once they get success. That's the part that I can't understand because, you know, we did our share of bullshit. Yeah, we was messed up back then as well. But once we got an opportunity, you know, mostly we tried to do something different, you know what I mean, and move a little bit different. It just seems like, I don't know, it's almost like a prerequisite to get a record deal, get hot, and then get killed or go to jail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So, you know, I don't know what to attribute that to be very honest with you. Because like you said, it's one thing to talk about a 13, 14, 15-year-old kid, but when you start talking about 21, 22, you know, yes, they're still very young, but you know better. Right. You know what I mean? You definitely know better. So, I think what it is too is the culture. You know what I'm saying? It's a couple components to it. The culture celebrates destruction. You know what I mean? It's like the more reckless that you can be, the cooler you are. You know, if you crash out on social media, you got ops, you going back and forth, and you basically incriminating yourself, the realer that I guess the people think you're gonna be, or so to speak, but not really, because what they got to understand is, you know, the commenters and the onlookers, they hype it up. They love the drama. But as soon as somebody crash out, then they talk about how stupid you was.
Yeah.
You know, talk about, damn, he had all that money. He's stupid. Wow. You know, so I think if they educate themselves and they understand, you know, I mean, even outside of educating themselves to move in different ways and get into different business and different things like that, they got to do the self work too, you know. And you got a lot of motherfuckers that's getting high too. You know, you can't, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up. Yeah. A lot of these niggas is on pills, lean, and everything under the sun. So you already talking about maybe a level of mental and emotional instability mixed in with substance, you know, and then you know, a culture that's, you know, that celebrates recklessness. So it's a powder keg. It's you know, it's so many dynamics to it. But ultimately, I think if youngins if they're willing to just open their minds to evolve and to change, be okay to change, be okay to not feel how you felt 5 years ago, you know, because if you think that some of the shit you did wasn't stupid 10 years, 5 years ago, you probably still stupid. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that you know, they got to be willing to do the self work. That's really what it's about. You got to be 100 with yourself. If you got a drug problem, be 100 with yourself and address that. If you got the wrong niggas around you, and you know, you can't be keeping it 100 with a bunch of crash dummies and they're, you know, jeopardizing your growth. You got to keep it real with yourself first. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's a mixed bag of questions and solutions and answers. You know what I mean? So I don't know, you know, I don't get it though. I don't understand how they get these opportunities and they getting, you know, even a couple $1 million. We all know they ain't rich like they say, but right. You are doing a whole hell of a lot better than you was in the project though, you know. So I don't know, my brother.
Yeah. So what happened with if you're privy to Kodak Black and Master P, because we sit here and we see that, and we often talk about, you know, it needs to be some type of like a union or a hierarchy, you know, in hip hop where it can show these young rappers, almost like at the NFL, when they come in, you tell them about this, tell them about that. What happened with them, in your opinion, if you know, what did that disconnect happen? Because Master P was almost standing, you know, as a role model, a mentor to Kodak, and next thing you know, things just kind of broke apart.
Right. Well, it's unfortunate, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, for starters, you know, that, you know, P tried to do the right thing and be a mentor and be a big brother. And he actually, you know, he did that begrudgingly. He really didn't want to be, you know, he did it out the kindness of his heart, but he had apprehensions, I should say. You know what I'm saying? Just because of the culture of the youngsters, you know what I'm saying? they can be a little difficult to deal with. You know, they have a thing of entitlement. They think they know everything, but still, you know, he pretty much, you know, he did the godly thing and tried to help the kid. And you know, it's unfortunate. You know, I seen some stuff that Kodak has said. All of that shit is not true because I was there for most of it. You know what I mean? And I think that, you know, when you talk about these youngsters, like I said before, we got to keep it 100. We can't keep making excuses for these guys. A lot of these guys is on drugs, man, you know, and they'll say whatever. We in the day and age where it doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's just people, attention is probably one of the worst drugs out right now. You know, attention and wanting to go viral and wanting likes and wanting the laugh and all of that. And nobody cares about having integrity, or they don't care about whether whatever they're saying is true or not. So with that situation, it was just an unfortunate situation. You know, P tried to do the right thing in the wrong situation, basically.
True that. Now, one thing you just said is attention. It's probably the biggest drug and the biggest high out here right now. We see a lot of that going on, whether it be whatever social media account. It doesn't even matter the age. You got old motherfuckers doing this shit.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Talk about that, because obviously Master P went through his share of shit when people talking about him and his money situation and things like that. And now that seems to just be something that drives the culture. It's the drama. You know what I mean? But talk about that, how, you know what I mean, you guys deal with the unnecessary bullshit. Does that really affect him? Is he so driven? Does that affect his circle? I mean, you looked at me like I was crazy, like, nigga, hell no. But just talk about
that. Definitely. Well, for starters, there's never no money situation. Secondly, excuse me. No, that shit doesn't affect P. He don't hear that shit. He don't pay no attention to that shit. You know what I mean? That's you know, that's my department. If I choose to address that bullshit, you know, like same thing with Jay-Z and what's his man's name? What's his Memphis Bleak. Yes. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Jay ain't going, you know, but if something needs to be said, man, you know, Bleak gonna step out and put a word to it. So yeah, you got some of the older cats that's as bad as the youngins. You know what I mean? I don't know, bro. This social media thing, like I said, this attention is crazy, man. I don't understand that. And a lot of these guys operate with no integrity, you know, and we in the day and age of, like I said, man, people can say anything. People don't care. People just want a click. Everybody's trying to monetize shit. Everybody's trying to, you know, build up clout. I think some of these guys are just saying whatever because they have their own, you know, things that they're trying to build and promote and trying to get a check out of somewhere, kissing up to somebody. But what kills me is how they always do it to us, though. You know what I mean? Because I can think of a couple individuals that always got something to say about some black folk, always dealing with black folks heavy-handedly and always got something negative to say. But the minute that a other does something, you know, you want to ride conveniently. You know what I'm saying? You want to ride if somebody says something on another black dude, but if a other does something, then you mute. You know, you quiet. You don't have nothing to say. Even the same thing with these young dudes, like you were saying earlier, kind of with Kodak. You know, these guys will say all kind of disparaging things about, you know, their own or somebody trying to help them. But ain't nobody riding on the record company that you unhappy with. You ain't saying no names about the people up in the offices. You know, these young niggas ain't trying to, you know what I mean? Ain't trying to press none of these lawyers and none of these people that's stealing from them and that's prostituting them. You know what I'm saying? But the minute that somebody on social media do or say something you don't like, then you trying to step on them. You know, so it's just it's such a like I said, it's such a destructive culture, you know, and I don't want to act like I'm, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm not holier than thou. You know, I'm sure I've spoken out of turn, you know, a time or two. You know, we all human, you know what I mean? But again, I still try to do the right thing. If I mess up, I try to apologize. But like I said, there's no integrity, man. And these older cats, they really need to sit down because they lead these you know, and we know who we talking about. You know what I'm saying? They leading these youngins down a pathway of destruction. I mean, they destroying relationships. You know what I'm saying? For no reason, just being reckless. on Clubhouse or on social media. I don't get it. It's a bunch of checker playing motherfuckers. Nobody is playing chess, or not even Monopoly. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers sitting up playing checkers all day.
Now, did you actually have a conversation with Whack 100, the guy who spread all these rumors about Master P? Did you ever physically or verbally talk to him on the phone, or do you just go on video and address him? I see you address.
Okay. Yeah, no, I never spoken with him.
Okay. Dope.
And let the record reflect, we don't, I don't have a problem with him like that. You know what I'm saying? And see, that's the other thing that I want to address as well. That's why I addressed him as I did, as a grown man. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna get on Clubhouse and rant and cuss and disrespect you and do all of that. We too old for that. I think I'm a year or two older than Whack. So I'm trying to set an example. It's cool. You got it wrong, my nigga. You violated. That's cool. OG taught me a long time ago, you always give a nigga a way out first. You know what I'm saying? So you try to get some understanding and get some straightening and give them a space to try to fix it and turn it around before it escalates or whatever the case may be. So, I don't have any, I don't want to harm them or nothing like, nah. It was just really just trying to correct them on the behavior and get him to see the bigger picture, but again, like you say, when you talk about this attention and you talk about, just people just saying whatever to go viral and get the attention, I believe there's probably a business model behind what he's doing or what he's done, but it's a choice. I believe that when you do that, you're operating with no integrity. So you don't really have to do that. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do that. If you create, content that people care about, and compelling content, and you're consistent, consistency is more important than perfection any day. Then you can still win without burning a bunch of bridges. You know what I'm saying? And making enemies in places you don't even know. So, that's my take on it. But I don't have, it's not like that. I don't have no, no problem with him where I want to do harm or wish harm on him or nothing like that. No, not at all.
Word. We get behind these microphones. My cousin and I have been doing it for some time now, a couple of years now, and we express our opinion. And we like to think based off of how we grew up and how we wanted to approach this game and just being genuine and as real as possible, that our opinion is validated through the ears that listen and through the eyes that watch and can kind of resonate through that. And one thing that we talk about here is how fake we feel like the industry is. Now, we're not involved directly with the industry. We don't know the ins and outs and the people directly in there to say factual, this is what's going on. But based off of what we see and how we move and how we grow up, this is what we perceive. Talk about how unauthentic the music industry and the Hollywood game is. Because like you said, now it's transitioning into social media where the most wild, the most reckless shit that you can say and people know they're not dumb will get you to click. The craziest headline and the biggest controversy will get you to click. Ain't nobody dumb. But how genuine is all of that? How fake behind the scenes, in your opinion, from what you saw, really is this industry?
Most of that shit is cap. Most of that shit is fake. Most of that shit is got whip on it. Most of it is blown up and you know what I mean? And it's either fake or it's a little, it's like turning crumbs to bricks. You know what I'm saying? You take a little pebble, a little morsel and trying to build a house with that shit. You know what I mean? That's pretty much what it is now. It's a bunch of fluff. It's a bunch of nonsense, but the viewers have to share in that as well, because that's what they pay attention to. You know what I mean? Like so many people would talk about the Kardashians, people would be like, well, what do? They don't do anything. Well, y'all tune the fuck in, so you made them important. You were curious about something. You're enamored with something. So people like the controversy. People like the bullshit. They like the drama. And a lot of it is fake because people have discovered that. You know what I'm saying? And I even heard Dude say that. He said that. He said, one thing I'll say about Dude, and I've said this, he's intelligent. He may be ignorant, but he's intelligent. You know what I'm saying? So he understands that part of the game that, okay, damn, I could do all of this and go get a check somewhere. You know what I'm saying? But, instead of chasing a check, why not create a check? You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just when people talk about selling their souls and you talk about, Illuminati and conspiracy theories and all of that. Selling your soul is doing shit like that goes against your integrity and, you know, the morals and just, you know, I'm not saying that social media can't be fun. I'm not saying, you know what I mean? I'm not saying we got to be all staunch and perfect and rigid and shit. Nah, I mean, we can have fun. We can even have our share of bullshit, but I'm saying you don't have to disrespect people. You don't got to shit on people for no reason or lie on people or create, you know, innuendo and false narratives. Like that shit is just, you know, like you say, motherfuckers always want to talk about they've been locked up and they done time, but you know, getting in people's business and lying on people in the pen will get you stuck. You know what I mean? So motherfuckers want to keep it real conveniently, you know.
Right.
You know.
Talk about, if you can, starting the motivation behind starting the Holding Court podcast.
Yeah, man. So, you know, the motivation, I had a radio show with Master P and Jay Tweezy about 5-6 years ago called Doing the Most on Playboy Radio.
Okay.
And that was my first experience with any type of, you know, doing radio or whatever. And it was Jay Tweezy that kind of pulled me to the side. It was like, Court, you know, you kind of got a knack for this. And I was like, really? You know, like I was on because P my homeboy, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I had never done nothing like that, but I enjoyed it. And so fast forward, you know, a lot of my supporters and my fans, when I would go live on social media, they would always be like, man, we love listening to you. We love your message. We love, you know, whatever. You should do a podcast. So when the quarantine hit, you know, everybody forced to sit still. So I started, you know, I'm watching Drink Champs. I'm watching Be High. I'm watching Gangster Chronicles and Vlad and all of that shit. And I was like, damn, this might be something I could do. You know, let me try throw my hat in that. So me and my partner, producer Ken, who's a good friend of mine, he's a producer out in LA. And we've produced other projects. You know, we always talked about doing some type of show together where we talk about music and hip hop and gangster rap, because, you know, that's just what our conversation would always be. So it kind of morphed into what it is, you know, with the interviews. And I don't like to say interviews, but conversations, you know what I'm saying? And I like documenting the journey of different people and inspiring people and really kind of digging deep and you know, I like for people to be as transparent as they feel comfortable with the flaws. Everybody has struggles, you know what I'm saying? And everybody is always inspired by the comeback, you know what I mean? And the overcoming. So, you know, this is why, you know, I started with, you know, guests like Chico Brown, you know, who was, of course, the co-defendant of Freeway Ricky Ross, and they got caught up in the whole Iran-Contra scandal. And, you know, I had Silk the Shocker. I had actor Michael Jai White, who's a friend of mine. You know, of course, Master P. I've had all kinds. I have so many, you know,
Jay Prince. Yeah, Jay Prince.
Jay Prince, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Bosco 100, Crip Mac, Ice-T. You know, Ice-T, you know, that's the OG. And actually, we did really well with his interview. So, you know, being able to pick up the phone and get some game from an Ice-T, from a Jay Prince, from a Master P, I never take that lightly, you know.
That's the power of relationships and keeping that bridges tight throughout time. You never know when you can make a call to somebody like that. You know what I mean? That's a dope thing. Talk about I like how you talk on Holding Court. You talking to Bosco, and anytime I see Bosco, I automatically correlate it to Gonzo. Rest in peace, Gonzo, because we've had him on a few times. He was a friend of the show, and that was crazy. Do you ever talk to Bosco about that situation and how he feels now about Gonzo?
I did actually. Man, that was such a beautiful thing that was blossoming with them, dog. It was so beautiful because these are guys that from opposing gangs, you know, that were going at it on social media. And of course, it could have had the potential to go left. And, you know, like men, you know, they got in the ring, they made some money, they you know, they duked it out like men, you know, and they actually formulated a friendship, a brotherhood, you know, and they were talking about doing things together. You know, these guys would talk almost every day after that. They went from roasting each other every day and, you know, chasing each other in the street and saying, pull up. And that just goes to show you that a lot of times, you know, we're not that different, man. You know, notwithstanding gangs or whatever culture, whatever, man, we all just humans trying to make it. And so once they got to know each other, man, that was beautiful. They actually fucked with each other. Like, you know, Bosco said, like, dude, that was my dog. Like, you know, and so I think that really, like, I feel like that's what the media should have hyped up. You know, the media will hype up the bullshit. You know, if somebody say a lie about somebody or say some incendiary shit, then the media pick that up. Yeah. But the media ain't gonna pick up that, oh shit, you know, a Crip and a Blood who was, enemies and going at it, it could have went bad, formed a brotherhood, and now they working together and now they moving forward. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, Bosco, he was that was his dog. We definitely talked about it, and he was he was hurt when homie got killed, you know, and he was just like, damn, that's crazy. And he said it. He said that it helped him as a man. He said, man, it helped me grow as a man to have that relationship with him, you know. And so yeah, that was unfortunate, man. Rest in peace to Gonzo.
Indeed.
For sure. Now, what happened with Freeway Ricky Ross? Did you have some type of misunderstanding because of the guests that you had on the show?
Oh yeah, man. That's man, you know, and I'm sure you guys understand this as well, being, you know, having a platform and being an influencer. You know, sometimes people, well, for starters, you know, you talking about with Boz. Yeah, Boz is my brother. That's my brother from another mother. And, you know, he basically was telling his truth, you know, which I allow every guest to come on and do. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, now, you know, truth and opinion are two different things. You know what I'm saying? You can tell your truth no matter how uncomfortable it is. Cool. I've had people come on my show and say opinion that could be deemed disrespectful, incendiary, that I know could escalate. I would take it out, you know. Now Boz is my brother. You know, he got on, he said what he said. Again, you know, he never used the word snitch. He never used the word told on me. He never used the word rat. He simply stated his truth. And even with the captions, because I have my, you know, integrity and my responsibility to report it correctly and accurately. You know, I didn't do, you know, how some platforms would do. That would have been gold to some platforms. They would have just, Boz called dude a snitch, woo, woo, woo. That's not what he said. All he said was, you know, hey, I had a case, a Fed case in 85. I always wondered how dude wound up in my paperwork. He was like, I never met him. I never did business with him. So it, you know, and he actually said, I don't even know if the feds was throwing a cross or trying to, you know, because I think the same thing happened with AZ Faison and Kevin Childs. Same thing, you know. And Kevin Childs was kind of looking at AZ, and AZ like, boy, I ain't never done nothing with you. I don't know how I would be in your paperwork, you know. So that's all he did was tell his truth. Now, of course, it put me in not really, but if it was anybody else, I would have took it out, right? But because that's my brother and I know his character, and I know, and this is something that wasn't shocking news to me. You know, it's just that he doesn't do interviews. He doesn't do media. So he just was speaking his truth. And mind you, like I told Freeway, I was like, the interview is an hour and a half. You were mentioned basically 2 minutes.
Yeah, we get that.
Right. So it's not like, you know, we set out and then it was at the end of it. It was an afterthought. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I understand it's a slippery slope, but, you know, I hollered at Freeway. And I let him know, hey, OG, you know, saying nobody has an issue. It's nothing like that. You know, it's some, you know, y'all some old gangster niggas telling your old story, your old gangster stories. And somehow or another, y'all worlds intertwined. You know what I'm saying? Again, nobody knows exactly why, but the real is the real. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's all good. But that's kind of the, you know, you got to toe the line sometime. You know what I mean? And I felt like I did him justice because I told him that. I said, even the way that we made the caption, we stuck to the facts. Nobody said this. We just said, hey, he didn't know you. Your name was there. He was like, he didn't know if the feds, but I get it. You know, I get it. But everything is all, you know, it's all good. It's all good.
It's the game we in, man. We understand.
Yeah, man. You know, it's tricky because, you know, I've had opposing influencers on my show. I've had, you know, people from different gangs, and it's tricky for us because, and I don't understand it, but maybe I do, because if you interview one and don't interview the other, then you taking sides. If you interview both, then you starting shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a catch-22 sometimes, but we try to be fair. And again, I try not to participate in anything that's going to escalate or like I say, I wasn't trying to besmirch Freeway, you know what I'm saying, in any way. But my brother is solid 100%. So if he say it, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. That's what comes with this, man.
Yes, when we know it. Corey Miller, Corey Miller, real quick. Talk about your thoughts on Corey Miller, what he's currently going through, and share some good thoughts, good memories of him, if you have any.
Well, this is the thing, man. I didn't get a chance to spend a lot of time around C like that. I met him a handful of times back in the late 90s. I was just more close to P and Boz, and over the years, of course, Silk. Me and Silk are close. But from what I do know, he was always a good dude. We all know he's innocent. He got railroaded. It's an unfortunate situation, but it also serves as a cautionary tale to the younger generation. This is what I was saying. When you start moving and getting in different circles and you start elevating, you have to watch who's around you. Everybody around you is not for you. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically the predicament C found herself in. It's just being surrounded by the wrong people. That's what did it. So it's unfortunate. It's an innocent man that's sitting, and hopefully he'll get a shot and get a chance at freedom really soon. But we always praying for him, and behind the scenes things are being done diligently to try to rectify that situation.
Right now you got a business venture. I don't know if it's like a health product with Master P.
Yeah.
Talk about what it is and how that's going for you.
Oh man, I'm so excited about that, bro. As everybody knows, P has ventured off into the product game. He's getting his Reginald Lewis on, with the soldier snacks, the rap snacks, and all the many products that he have. So of course, like they say, you're not a real boss until you created other bosses. So what he's done is he's put me in the driver's seat with him. We partnered up, because people would always say that, oh, do you have something healthy? Do you have something healthy? So being that that's my lane, I'm in the healthy living. And then I previously had a supplement called True Muscle Sports as well. So we decided to put our heads together, and we have a protein supplement coming out, Protein Bites, a protein snack called Soldier Bites. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, called Soldier Bites. And we also have True Body Milk, which is a protein meal replacement. So, zero sugar, zero, or I don't know the calorie count. It's very low, healthy, real healthy for you. But so I'm kind of spearheading the healthy side of things, in conjunction with him, so I'm excited about that, man, because it's a lot of things that I've learned from him, a lot of things that he's taught and teaches that I'm now able to apply in that arena. So I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, Soldier Snacks, Soldier Bites, you know what I mean? That's what's coming to Protein Bites.
Since I was a kid, Master P has made me laugh at some of the shit he's done, and it's been so innovative. And this food thing in the game, I feel like he's about to sell toilet paper and sell out of that shit. You talk about sneakers, snacks, noodles and shit, like anything he puts his hands on is a winner, man. Salute to y'all, man. So
yeah, I tell P all the time, I'm gonna be honest with you, he's always been an innovator. Just like the music, people didn't get it and they didn't see him coming and they thought he was crazy. I tell him all the time, I said, watch, in 6-7 years, all these street niggas, all these niggas gonna be trying to get chips and get into the product game. But at that point, he gonna be up, $5, $6, $10 billion. You know what I mean? So it's history repeating itself right in front of everybody's eyes. History repeating itself, and trust me, I know, because I'm on the inside. Right. So, like I said, in a couple years, everybody gonna be like, "Oh shit, let me get some product. So yeah.
Did you see Lay's? I don't know if you seen on Master P's timeline like a couple weeks ago. So Lay's now has the pictures on their bags now. How you feel about that?
Hey, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's flattering. You know what I mean? It just lets you know that you got something. It lets you know that you're going in the right direction. You know, so I when I saw it, I actually thought it was P shit. I was like,
I know, me too.
I was like, where you get this? I say, who is this white boy? Then I looked at it. It was like, oh, that's Lay's. You know.
Man. No, I don't know too much of the logistics. I don't know if you know, but in their licensing things you got to go through. I mean, it's Lay's. I know they're a huge chip company. They're trying to be bullies right now, but how does that work?
I guess a face is a face, you know.
Yeah. I don't know if the actual. Well, you have to think. It's not that it hadn't been done. I mean, think about Wheaties and different things like that. So I think the licensing goes to just the person you're using, but I don't think that there's necessarily a patent on, you know, being able to do it. You know what I'm saying?
I got you. That makes sense.
Yeah. Last question, man. Talk about your artists. That'll be my last question.
Messiah Way, man. Right. Yeah, you know, so have a new artist, Messiah Way, out of the Bahamas, man. You know what I'm saying? Uncharted territory, untapped market, you know, super talented artist. You know, like I always say, man, he reminds me of, you know, it's like he's the next Drake, but the first Messiah Way. You know what I mean? Super talented kid, super talented producer. He's got some songs out now that are you know, picking up some steam, that's getting some legs. I'm just excited, really, you know, and that's the thing. That's the other thing too, is, you know, I don't do nothing for money at this point in my life. Everything I do because I enjoy it, you know. So I always say, you know, I'm a purpose chaser, not a paper chaser. So, you know, even with venturing into music, that's something that I do just because I have fun with it. I enjoyed it. And I enjoy trying to create opportunities for younger artists, you know, being able to try to, you know, I think that some of the artists are missing, you know, being A&R'd and having that mentorship, you know. That's why I like Snoop, you know, with what he was doing at Def Jam, because he was able to kind of A&R and really kind of mentor the artists that were over there, if they're open to that. So I'm trying to create a platform for not only Messiah Way, but even, you know, artists out of my homes, you know, my home city of Kansas City, Missouri. You know, of course, we've had, you know, we got Tech Nine. Shout out to my brother Tech Nine, who's also been on my show recently. And, you know, we've had a couple people, you know, we got Rich the Factor and different people like that. But, you know, as far as for the new generation, you know, I want to be able to create a platform for not only Messiah Way, who will probably lead the charge, you know, but, you know, some of the talent coming out of Kansas City, Missouri too. So that's something that's very that I'm passionate about, you know, because, you know, it's a difference between a movement and a moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, Atlanta, they've had a movement. LA had a movement. You know, we've had a few people with moments in Kansas City, but I want to create a movement. You know, even though I've been in LA 20 years and that's home, but, you know, I'm still loyal to the soil in terms of my hometown, and I want to help usher in the talent there as well.
Hey man, we definitely appreciate you, Big Court, on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast, man. Definitely got to do this again, man. This was a dope build, and there's so many layers that we could still peel back. Still want to hear about your life and things that you went through.
For sure.
Real quick,
I appreciate you guys having me, brother.
Anytime, brother. The pleasure was all ours. Real quick before we get up out of here, man, please, social media handles, the YouTube platform, podcast, let the people know where they can find all your information right now.
For sure. Subscribe, like, and comment to the Holding Court podcast on YouTube. It's also available on all streaming platforms, Google, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your stuff at. Follow me at I Am Big Court on IG, and also follow Holding Court podcast on IG as well. TikTok is shit. I'm still trying to wrap my head around TikTok. So
couple of these motherfuckers at a time, man.
Hey, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I just mastered IG, so give me some time.
Right. No doubt. We definitely appreciate you, man. Big Court on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast.
I appreciate it. Salute, fellas. I appreciate you,
man. Thank you.
All right, right on.
Yeah, take care, brother.